Hey everybody, welcome to the Common Folk Podcast with Ben, Morgan, and Andy.
Welcome back to Common Folk.
The podcast for the people, by the people. We're even bringing some people in.
All the people.
There we go.
I was just yawning. It's like
God,
end of
this
the
is a
day.
great start.
The openings just bored to death.
Jeez.
This has happened lately. What's going on? Maybe it's because I'm not drinking.
We've done a couple in the mornings.
Because you're getting old.
Well,
Ooh,
we know that.
ouch.
And I am older than you, so he likes to tell me that.
Oh, okay.
By 3 months.
Jeez.
Old lady over here.
See what happens?
I'm not getting into this one.
You dodging this
I feel
one?
like you guys always try and pull me into this. No way.
We don't care.
Yeah, until we get home, and then I get an
Right.
earful.
Oh, bullshit. That's
Andy's an
not true.
asshole.
No,
No,
not true.
we have done a couple recordings in the morning, and then like after we go to hang out with our guests or whatever, I catch myself yelling. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just,
Yes.
I'm tired from a day and then being plugged in and trying to keep the energy and all that stuff.
Agree.
It does,
Especially right now with the shit weather.
Ugh,
Snowing
too.
again.
Look at the icicles.
we can't get away from it.
I know.
We can't get away from it.
Did you see those icicles?
Oh, wow.
Like, that's legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
Does that
Right
mean
outside
the
the
drainage
window then?
system, the gutters don't work? Or
Well, the gutter's straight up broke.
Okay.
Sets the winter wonderland mood
Yeah.
here in the studio or just outside the studio.
Except we're way past Christmas. I don't want to
Yeah.
hear any about winter wonderland shit.
We're getting right in the middle of winter, though.
I know, but it
Yeah.
just reminds me of Christmas. Get it out of here.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it being over for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we do have a guest. You did say that.
Yeah. So,
We've been guest heavy lately.
yeah. No, and this is a partner that I've worked with since, 2017, 2016?
17.
Okay.
17.
Is that when we met? Was 2017 or did...
Yeah, it was like April or May.
Why
Okay.
did I
still
think you
in
guys kind
college.
of grew up together? I mean, I know you're younger than Andy, but
Yeah, I picked
No.
on him all the time when he was in middle school. No, it was kind of a unique story where I had just started for News Channel Nebraska, and they had me doing ag reporting, and then they asked me if I could do some sports broadcasting a couple months in, and that went really well. And so they're giving me all this reins to work with, all this leeway, and so I got in touch with some of their sales staff and said, hey, we just do a bunch of reruns over the weekends of the same game that we've already done. What would you think of an outdoor show, like a hunting and fishing show? And all the sales staff loved it. They're like, if you want to do that, if you can do it, and we'll air it.
nice.
I mean, it was like an unbelievable opportunity. So I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how am I going to do this. I just bought a camera. I don't even know how to use the damn thing.
And you were kind of hoping they said no,
Well,
but not.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
You get told no, and then you figure out how to go from there.
Exactly.
I just got the green light. And that, the World Herald, we still got the paper at that time. They had a nice little article in the outdoor section about a Garrett Heikes, and he was you just graduated from Northeast.
I hadn't even graduated yet.
Oh.
So it was my last semester, like April or May, I think.
So who wrote that? And what was all that? What was that article about? I know I read that article, and I reached out to the World Herald and I said, "Who is this guy?"
So I don't even know exactly how. I think it was because I was posting pictures of my bass at the time because I mean, deer hunting is obviously my number one, but I'm pretty big into like bass fishing too. So
Okay.
especially in college, we had a lot of free time, and on the weekends and living in Norfolk, we were pretty close to a couple decent lakes. So I'd take my kayak out and fish with buddies, and we were catching a lot of really big bass that year. And I think it was because I was posting my pictures on like Nebraska fishing and hunting bragging board and like Facebook fishing pages and stuff. And I got a phone call or a message on Facebook from a lady, don't even remember her name. I wish I'd still had that to like thank her and like see where we're at now, because I don't know if they even work at the Omaha World Herald anymore, but asked to do like a story on my bass fishing in the state, because it was the outdoor writer, I believe.
Yeah,
for
she was a
Omaha World
contributor.
Herald.
Yep, she was a writer.
And it was in like February or March, I think March, that I had a phone call with her, and it was actually me and Keegan, one of my best friends from college, and we were driving back from the lake when she called, and we had just caught some big fish that day, and just kind of funny how that worked out. But asked if she could do a story on like I think just the bass fishing, and then asked more questions like how old I was, what I was going to school for, and was going for digital cinema and media production. It was my last year, so then she asked like more questions, what my goals were outside of college, and always knew that I all I did growing up, thanks to my family, was hunt and fish. That was the only thing I really knew. Didn't do much for sports. I was doing like archery and shooting competitions and stuff like that with air guns and BB guns, and so I guess that's all I had a real interest in. And then grew up running around with a camera, and would always take my mom's camera when we would go hunting and fishing, and got into that, and ended up going to college with my best friend from high school for the same thing, and worked out really good because we basically went and hunted and fished every day that we could together and had the cameras with. So
fun.
Grew up watching hunting and fishing shows on TV and kind of wanted to follow that line, but didn't know if I wanted to work for somebody else or kind of have my own thing. Always worked better when it was on my terms and could do my own ideas, and just worked out perfect. Andy got a hold of me, and then from that article, and then the same week, Gary Howie, who owned Outdoorsman Adventures TV show at the time, I think he started in the late 80s or early 90s.
Yeah, he was at it for a long time.
Yeah, did a lot of articles for papers and books, magazines, and then had his TV show. So the summer of 2017, when I graduated, so we met before college was over.
And real quick, the suspense is built enough. This is Garrett Heikes of Chasing the Dream TV. So I don't know if we ever got an introduction in there.
Sorry.
But that summer of 2017.
Yeah, so we were talking about like starting a show, because that was what he wanted to do, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. Obviously went to school for it, and that was my ultimate goal. And at the same time, I was filming for Gary Howie for his show. So it was I was learning it from that side while we were trying to start it. So it all just kind of worked out perfectly, and try to mesh two of my biggest passions together into one. And that's, I think, late summer is when we decided on a name and got everything finalized. And then our first episode went on NCN that fall. So.
And what year was that?
2017.
17, wow.
And our first episode was basically your capstone project.
Yeah, it was my
really
capstone
cool.
project for college the previous fall. So that's kind of part of the story too. Part of how I got into the videography and photography for hunting and fishing stuff was my taxidermist and family friend. My dad's been taking deer to him since before I was born, and he lived in the same hometown, and his son, Dustin Lutt, so Mike Lutt was our taxidermist. He quit now, but Dustin, his son, is probably 6-7 years older than me, and he right now has like the biggest outdoor production company in the United States for sure. So like Cabela's, Bass Pros, Rapala, like most of the big name brands, he does a lot of the work for.
Okay.
And he started doing the same thing, went to college for it too, so I was seeing all the stuff he was doing and just thought how cool it was, because I was already into photography and stuff like that. And so 2016 fall, my last year of college, Mike, his dad, was going on a caribou hunt in Newfoundland, and knew that I was going to school for it, and like talked to him and Dustin. He helped me really get started, and Mike asked me if I wanted to go to Newfoundland on the hunt with him and film it, and it worked perfect. So all of our professors in college were pretty cool.
Yeah. It was an A+. You got an A+ on it.
I was going to ask.
You better have.
Yeah, I was wondering.
So went and filmed that, and we got to skip class a lot, because what we were doing technically, like outside of school, we'd skip class and we'd go hunt and fish, but we'd film it kind of as an excuse at the time to get out of class. But our professors were pretty cool and understanding, and have to give a shout out to Tim Miller. I'll have to send him this link, but he was our main like hands-on camera professor, and he had mastered the audio for every Randy Anderson Primos like coyote calling video, and is best friends with Randy Anderson. And I grew up watching Randy coyote call because he's like the main Primos guy. He's got all kinds of calls named after him and recorded a lot of the sounds for it. So we got to bond with him in class over all that stuff. And like looking back now, the past year, I've been filming with Randy 4 Primos videos. So it's kind of cool how it all ties
Full
together.
circle.
Yeah.
Now, what college was this?
Northeast.
Okay.
So
Up in Norfolk.
Yeah.
we got pretty lucky with who we had at the time because both of our main professors are retired now. But one of them was Nancy Sutton, and she's from South Dakota, but she started at like, I don't remember what the bigger university in Sioux Falls is, but she, like, both of them have a ton of experience in it and have worked on huge projects, like nationwide, worldwide projects. So we had really good teachers, and I think that helped us a lot. I don't know who's there now, but...
Yeah, and you want to talk about common folk and just people across Nebraska. Randy Anderson, when I knew him, was from Butte, up in my neck of the woods.
Okay.
Small town, like population 500. And then the Lutz, they're from Hardington, right? So even smaller. So
And Gary's from Hardington.
Yeah,
So it's,
yeah, he's from Hardington. So, I mean, just small towns up in north central, northeast Nebraska, and here they are making this huge impact. I actually just saw a Randy Anderson DVD because we were cleaning up, after Christmas and stuff. Was it Mastering the Art of Calling or something?
Yeah, he's got all kinds of videos.
Speak the language.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah.
See, and you guys are dropping some of these names, and I don't know who these people are, but that's all right. You know what I mean? You guys are in the hunting world, and I'm just setting out on it.
No,
first time.
Randy Anderson was one of the first guys, I would say, that really dove into like predator hunting and coyote calling. And so since he was the first guy out there, posting and getting the word out on that stuff, I mean, a lot like the old-time YouTubers, he's got the biggest audience. He's got the most know-how, and he works with the biggest companies, and he deserves it. Like, he does know. He's got all that experience and know-how.
Yeah,
Wow.
truly one of the pioneers of predator calling, especially.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the way you can change it up and everything else like that. But, well, then fast forward to today, we're still on Saturday and Sunday mornings on NCN. You've been able to bring some of your buddies in, and we've had some of our friends on, so that's a real fun experience. And, I mean, it's called work, but we're out there hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad day at the office, even if you have a bad go of it or whatever.
The Saturday and Sunday morning stuff that you were talking about is the Chasing the Dream TV show.
Yeah.
And that's on News Channel Nebraska, is that what you said? NCN?
Yep.
And so you guys are working to record and produce those shows month after month, week after week, whatever, and then those guys are just running them on a cycle for you is kind of the deal, right?
Yep.
And then it's on YouTube as well.
Yeah,
Right.
We put a lot more on YouTube just because there's so much stuff we film that we still want to show that doesn't make like full-length TV episode. So we'll put all that stuff, like if we just have a day of fishing that's good, then make a short video out of that and put it on YouTube too, and then kind of repurpose a lot of some of our latest episode that went on, was that 2 weekends ago?
Deer hunting.
That was one of our rifle seasons, and we had 3 buck kills and 1 doe kill in that. So was able to make 1 episode out of 3 hunts, but then split that 1 TV show hunt into 3 separate YouTube videos.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
we try to do that as much as possible.
It works really well for us because, like, even with like people that want to sponsor us or whatever, it's not just a YouTube channel. It's not just a TV channel.
Right.
We can do certain, and it's a statewide channel too. So like the most hunting shows don't have that. You're either on Outdoor Network, and you got to pay that premium to be on there, or you're just a YouTube channel,
Sure.
And I'm not saying that derogatory or anything like that. It's just you're one or the other, and we get to kind of be both. So we're kind of in a neat area there.
Nice.
Decent amount of leverage in multiple different ways.
Right. And I like how we're not just pigeonholed into deer hunting or duck hunting. Like, we kind of do it all. We do fishing and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
no, it's been a good ride, and I think some of your latest work, I'll get on a soapbox, it's some of your best. It's really good. We spent a lot of money on music, and you're pretty good with the music, and it adds a lot. So
Well, and I mean,
Absolutely.
you've been doing it now long enough, 5-6 years, where you
I think
you start getting better and better, right? Like,
this will be our 8th
8
season.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Seventh year, 8th season of TV shows.
So do you
cool.
look back at like the first ones and you cringe?
I try not to watch a lot of the old stuff over because I do, but like at the time, I mean,
But it just shows growth.
Yeah,
I
and
like that.
I do like that too, because I mean, it's even stuff that I put out 3 years ago. I watch now. I'm like, I should have done that different. But
I think you always do that. But I think then it just
3 years from now, I'll be looking back at my current stuff.
Yeah,
I think the same. But.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So,
Yep.
well, good.
No, and Garrett's been really good with the drone. We spent a lot of money on a drone, and we'll probably have to spend even more money on a new one.
We're on number 2 now.
But
Because it crashed, or you just need
No, just upgrades.
Okay.
Newer
So can you
equipment
sell
stuff.
the old ones?
Mhm.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Drones especially, it seems like they depreciate pretty quick. Like when we got the first one was 2019, and I think it was like $2,200 for that and one extra battery. And then the most recent one we got is better, smaller, with a lot more stuff with it, and it was half the price.
Oh.
So it changes. I mean,
Yeah.
just as the technology advances, it's like, I don't know, more common. Because like back then, there was not that many people that had drones. So when we were putting out our videos with drones, it was a lot cooler then than it is now. It's still cool, but...
Well, you've said your drone is old now.
Oh, yeah, it's way old.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a dinosaur. I remember that thing. But it worked. That I was used on one Chasing the Dream.
Yeah,
one of the episodes.
Gosh, that was just last year. I think
A pheasant hunt one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it the
I mean,
Phantom?
it's is it a Phantom? No, it's a Inspire.
Okay.
It's
Yep.
an Inspire. Yeah. So I think that was the one right after the Phantom.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's a truck. Like that thing.
It's huge.
It's big, but it's strong, and it does everything you want it to do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
So,
By the way, we last time we went out to my buddy's place out in Iowa, we had like some family deal. We were just hanging out, whatever, and we were like, I wonder what this drone could like carry. Like, what kind of payload does it have?
okay. All right.
So we just started picking up stuff and hauling it around the farm.
How many Coors Lights were you guys in?
That's exactly what we did. So
How'd you know?
we were up at the house, and like down probably, I don't know, half a mile, you could see the farm pond down there. And some guys were down there fishing and hanging out. And so we loaded up a couple of beers and picked them up on we tied like this long, 20-foot rope from the thing, so it was dangling.
Yeah.
So you just get up in the air, hauled that thing down there to them, slowly brought it down. You could watch them on the camera. They could grab their beer and then bring it back, grab another one.
So it's good for 2 beers, or did you push it?
Oh, yeah. I had hauled those all day, yeah.
Nice.
That's funny.
Never thought of that. But
No.
Okay.
We also
so next episode.
we also were shooting at 500 yards, something like that, I think. I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was a little less. And even with the spotting scopes, you'd have a kind of a little bit of a tough time seeing where the bullets were hitting because we were trying to dial in and see what was going on with windage and all that kind of stuff. So we took the drone and flew the drone down to the target and just had it hovering 10 foot from the target and was watching the camera.
Oh, that's clever.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
As-
I've never thought of that.
As the bullets were hitting, we were like, okay, well, you're a little bit off, to the right, up and high, whatever, so that worked pretty good.
You might not want me.
You got more eyes.
with your drone down. With your drone down there, you might not want me down.
Yeah, just don't shoot the drone.
Don't shoot the drone down.
They work pretty good for herding cows, too.
Oh, I bet.
Oh.
Carson and I did that at one of
Really?
his buddies'
They
places.
don't like the noise or what?
No, they're scared of it. And
So they just go.
Cows will look up at it, so they see it, and then they're pretty loud. I mean, it sounds like a really loud bumblebee.
Yeah.
And we had some of Matt's cows were in the wrong pasture, so Carson and I both had drones, and we herded them up a draw and then through the gate hole, and then drove the side-by-side over there and
Dang.
There
got
we
them
go.
back in.
Wow.
Who needs those dogs anymore?
Or 4-wheelers or
Or a horse.
horses, drones, That's all good.
Handy.
Multi-purpose.
Oh my gosh.
Well, with all that, Garrett really keeps his thumb on anything and everything outdoors related. Rules, regulations, laws, trends, not just with cinematography or videography or any of that stuff, but just what's actually going on. And I saw, it's a headline that's been cropping up the last couple of years. I think it really started going I think it started in 2018, it was getting proposed, and then in 2021 or 22, it actually came to be law in Arizona. And that is that their DNR, their game and parks, isn't going to allow, and they don't now, hunters to put up trail cameras. And so I saw a couple posts from like Field and Stream or something like that saying, oh, hunters are losing more rights, or big government, Big Brother's taking away more hunting rights, and we need to fight back. And so this last deer season, I asked Garrett about it. I'm like, well, that's pretty messed up. I mean, the government can have cameras on us,
Right.
Google Earth and this and that, but we can't have a camera on whether it's public property or whatever, at a state park. Like, what's going on here? What's with all this? And Garrett gave me an answer that made a lot of sense that I never thought of, but I just bought into the headline like, I should be mad and the government's taking away my rights,
Right.
But maybe there's more to the story there, Garrett?
Yeah, and it depends on the state. I mean, every state has something a little different, and more, especially as cell cams get more popular, it's a bigger issue across multiple states. Like the Arizona one, I believe it's anybody, even private land, that you can't run trail cameras. And
On your own property.
yeah, so that part I don't agree with, but I think the main thing with Arizona was public land, because there's a lot of public land in most of those western states, and especially like southwest desert areas where there's not a whole lot of water sources, especially on drought years. All of the animals have to go there to drink. So if it's on public land, you've got guys that have put in for these tags for elk, mule deer, antelope, bighorn sheep that have been putting in for forever. So you want to learn while you're not out there, which is the reason we use trail cameras for deer on private property and public land, other places too. But I think the main reason there is because, especially like drought years, you've got one water source, and a lot of times it's a well that's drilled by the state on public land to provide water for the animals. So, I mean, some of these, you see pictures online and videos before they banned it, or had this, I don't know, bill.
Law,
yeah.
Yep, it's a law now, I think.
And some of these water holes literally have 30 plus trail cameras on public land. So the entire pond or water hole, like smaller, way smaller than this house, just covered in trail cameras. And yes, it's public land, like it's ours, but if we've got 30 trail cameras on there, like on private land, it's not as big a deal, like especially how we do it for deer. We've got all of our cameras out there, but we can select where we put them. But private land, if you've got one water source for every species out there, and you've got 30 people plus going out there to check your trail cameras regularly,
Year-round.
it's just constant intrusion, pushing the animals away from that. So then they run off farther into the desert, away from water, start wandering to search for a place they can go without being stepped on, basically. And it's just
Okay, so that does bring a new perspective.
If you think about it too, I mean, we all hunt, we're all into it, we all get it. I mean, how much sport, how much game is in that scenario? So like obviously they're putting up the game cams, they're wanting to see what's out there, these individual hunters, and then they're probably going to hunt right around that area, right?
Yeah, and a lot of them do hunt on the water.
Yeah. So you're hunting a scenario where like the animal essentially like has no choice but to come in.
Exactly.
So what are we doing?
So are you saying it's like a feeder? Like you're kind of trapping them?
I mean, essentially
an attractant, yes,
yeah.
but it's a natural, whether it is a natural spring, because there is natural springs out there too, or man-made for the wildlife or cattle, because like BLM, public land, you can get permits as a rancher to run your cows on there for a certain time of the year. So it's for the wildlife and the cows, but I mean, yeah, if you're, I don't know. I get the reason to have the trail cameras out there so you know what's there to hunt, so you can like check areas off or know where to go. But at the point where there's that many people on it, like I understand it more on public to have this ban, especially in the desert where they can't, like the animals don't have an escape from it. Like they have to come in and get a drink there, or they go off into the desert and potentially die because they can't find any other water.
So they got two choices for death essentially.
Yeah. True.
Yeah,
They can go in the desert and die, or they can go to the watering hole and die.
pretty much. And
So that got passed, and what's people pissed? I mean, I'm sure you have both sides.
Like Andy said, like you see the headlines and a lot of it's, I mean, to a point, clickbait. Like you want people mad, and generally, I mean, we don't want more government rules, but there also is a point where you need some of them because, I mean, if you just keep allowing it, like trail cameras haven't been around forever, especially to the extent they are. And now, like, if you could put a cell cam out there, I mean, that's just made it a lot worse on public land for number of people out there and intrusion and pressure on public land. And yeah,
it's very surprising to me too that folks are willing to put out their expensive property like that.
Yeah, and they do get stolen.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
that's what I thought.
I very rarely run trail cameras on public, but like we've got a pretty decent piece of public ground 10, 15 miles from Andy's ranch, and I've ran trail cameras there 2 times. And the longest period of time that I went without going over there to check them was 2 weeks. And when I got back, the 2 cameras that I put out were stolen. And one of them I climbed 12 foot up in a tree and angled it down at a scrape. And somebody
took it.
saw it, climbed up there, and still stole it.
Jeez, man. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that seems crazy.
Yeah. But a lot of those, I mean, to a point it would pay off because the amount of money and time you're spending to go down in those desert units and on the tag, then $100 is
sure
like a penny compared to what you have sunk into it.
You got to pay for some of those hunts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't understand the private part. Like, it is your own property.
Yeah,
that's basically like saying I can't go pee outside or something. You know what I mean? Like, this is my land. I own it. Don't tell me what to do.
I could be wrong on that, but I think Arizona is the entire state.
Yeah,
That's
how I
crazy.
read it. I just read an article this morning just so I'd have a little background. And that's what I saw is that, no, they just did a whole blanket thing and said, nope.
There's no
they're
way
all
people
gone.
are following that. I
Well,
mean, come on.
And it's so loosely written. It says you can do it for non-hunting purposes.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's like it's really loose. Like,
They put in,
It's pretty dumb.
and I've heard people talk about that too, like you need to have it black and white to where there's no wrong interpretation of it where somebody can shrug it off and use it as an excuse. Because like some of them have, I think it is Arizona in the listing says general photography, something like that.
Wildlife photography is fine.
Cattle ranchers, like stuff like there's exceptions of it, but
Or like if you're just watching
You want to see
for
like
intruders.
yeah.
You know, like
or like predators, getting after your cattle or whatever. You
like
know.
it's your new ADT system, you could say,
Yeah.
but you're not
Yeah.
really using it.
just right there on the public ground, right above the water source.
That does seem dumb as hell. Like, I don't understand what they're achieving.
I think they could have just written it up a lot better, where you can, if it's your land, do what you want. Have 30 trail cameras around a watering hole if you want, but you wouldn't, because it'd push deer or whatever away. But I don't know. It just feels like there's zero common sense to it. Like I love the idea of what they're trying to do, because that's not right. Where you have so much pressure on those water holes that you're actually pushing animals away from, this well that you dug for them. But they just did a blanket type of law and just said, nope, all trail cameras are out.
How does something like this get passed? I mean, that sounds stupid for me to even say that, but
It unanimously passed.
I mean,
in
so this
Arizona.
is just the governor, or like it has to come to vote. What's the...
I think it depends on the state. There's a lot of like fishy avenues that it goes through.
Really?
Like a lot of different hunting and fishing regulations are. I mean, we see it here in our own state where the public doesn't even know about it until it gets passed.
Oh,
and there's
so
a lot
kind
of
of just like under the rug type of stuff.
Exactly. And there's a lot of like lobbyists for different things that put a ton of money in to the senators or whoever to get stuff passed.
Okay.
And then the public doesn't have a choice. So
And there's also levels to it. Like I think Nebraska is a great kind of a secret, not a secret, but it's not what you think of as far as waterfowl. But the flyway has kind of shifted to come over Nebraska more and more. So like there's really good duck, goose hunting seasons across Nebraska. But Nebraska's game and parks can't even touch those regulations. That's all federal.
Oh,
So it all
okay.
comes down from the feds. Like our DNR or whatever you want to call them, they don't get a say in that at all.
yeah, states can regulate season dates a little bit for waterfowl, but because waterfowl are migratory species, then it's federal because like ducks, geese, all of them, most of them summer in South Dakota, North Dakota, like that.
Somewhere else.
North or Canada, and then migrate all the way down to very southern United States, sometimes Mexico and South America. So it's not like deer, unless you're on the border of a state, deer are that state's animal. So they can make, the state can make the decision on regulations for that. But since waterfowl, it affects the entire country throughout the flyway, then they make
Then that's
the federal.
federal.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
Do you think that other states are going to follow suit, like with Arizona?
They already have. I think it's going to be more prevalent in western states because of the same reason, especially desert states. But like Midwest deer hunting, it doesn't have quite as an effect because the public land areas aren't as big. But Kansas, I believe this past fall before season started, they banned trail cameras on public land, which I also I'm not against because the same reason. I mean, I've hunted public land in multiple states my entire life, and there's nothing worse than a bad public land experience. And if there's 20 guys hunting a 20,000 acre piece of public ground, but everybody's got a camera out there, that's 20 people, potentially 20 plus different days, sometimes more, going to check their cameras or run cell cameras, and then you've just got all these people in there,
Foot
and then
traffic.
it bumps the deer or whatever game you're hunting out, so then it's not even worth going there.
See, and I guess when you were talking about that always just freaks me out more than I'm thinking there's 20 plus guns in there.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
just the possibility of some accident seems
they
a
happen.
lot more risky.
I think especially if you're going out of state, I get some people, like, when they go out of state, they want to, like for us, when we travel, say we go to Idaho, that's, an 18-hour drive. So, I mean, it'd be nice to know what's out there before you spend all the time and money to go out there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, that, it takes away part of the hunt. Like, a huge part of the fun is finding what's out there, scouting new areas, learning different property, and finding a deer to target. I think, like, me personally, if I went to Kansas to bow hunt, I'd rather go and scout on the ground and just have a good experience rather than, like, know what's out there. And I think it'll take a lot of pressure off the public land because there's people that won't hunt an area if they don't have cameras out there and don't know what's there.
Okay.
So by banning that on public land, the people that do go there will probably have a better public land experience.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I don't mind the public land stuff. There's also an element to just what I think Ben was getting at, where there still needs to be fair chase. And that's what the Arizona guy that I was reading up on, that's where he just kept hammering that. It's like, you're taking the sport out of it.
No.
But, and you mentioned cell cam. What exactly is that? Is that a camera just talks to your cell phone, or what does that do?
So cell cameras essentially just send the photo in real time to your phone, and you can set them all different. And I get, like, some people have arguments against that to say, like, oh, you're just putting a camera there and you see the deer's there, so you go in and kill it. It doesn't work like that. I mean, we've had trail cameras at the ranch for 4 years now since I bought the first ones, and it depends on how you use them. Like, if you're in a state where baiting is allowed, you could put a cell cam on a bait site. And if you live close, or on your own property, say you're sitting in your house here, you've got a cell cam in the back, and it's gun season. Okay, that deer's on the corn pile. I can sneak around the corner of the house and shoot it from the house. Then it offers you an unfair advantage over the wildlife.
Yeah.
But especially if you don't live away from your property, or like the way we use the trail cameras at the ranch is we'll put them in bedding areas, or areas that we don't want foot traffic in, so we're not going in there to bump the deer out. It's just to know who's there, how often they're traveling through, and then we hunt most of the edges. Like, we don't really bump into a whole lot of stuff and try to push our deer out, because that's obviously what we don't want to do. So it's not like there's just like that one exception or a couple exceptions where I don't think it's fair chase, but the way we use them and the way a lot of whitetail hunters use them, I think it is still fair. I mean, it's real time, but how many of us are hunting behind our house? Like, especially if you're bow hunting, you can't just get a picture of a deer cruising by a trail or whatever and then just walk out there and kill it. Like, it's not.
It doesn't.
It is not. There's not one deer. Like, we monitor the deer at the ranch as, like, finite as we can on trails and bedding areas, there's not one deer we've killed because of a camera. Not one.
Yeah. I was reading some of those articles where they were talking about it a little bit, and the guy who was in charge, the official or whatever, he was talking about what you were talking about there, keeping it fair.
Yeah.
But he was also talking about like just the general public bitching because it's public land, and they're out there hiking or doing whatever they're doing, and then they go to the one watering hole, and then they feel like they're in a photo shoot, and their privacy's being invaded and all this kind of stuff. So there's some of that too, but then it also kind of goes back to one of the things that you were saying earlier, like there's cameras everywhere. So if the government's allowed to do it and take pictures of us every time we turn a corner in downtown Omaha or whatever, you know, what's the difference? I don't know.
Yeah.
Part of that to me is like if you're in town, that's public space. You're already in the public. Like if most people, when they go hunt or fish, they want to feel like they're in the outdoors.
Yeah.
I think that takes away from a lot of it. If
you
know you can't be on public land without walking by somebody's camera, and just, I don't know, takes away from the experience.
Yeah.
And I try to have, you do have cameras out, and that's where I think people get screwed up a lot. Even with that post you made of a little short video of the Perfect 10, the buck that I harvested or shot a year ago. You got people out there calling us murderers and, oh, you're cheating and this and that. It's like,
Oh my gosh.
nobody cares about the health of that deer herd more than us. And we got these cameras, we got these mineral sites to supplement and to build this deer population up and to keep it as healthy as possible. We're not going out there to cheat or to just shoot the place up. In fact, that's the very last thing that we want to do. We're using the cameras as more of to try and help the environment, to try and help the wildlife and everything under the sun.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be out there all the time, and like neither one of us lives there. So most people don't live at their hunting property, so you're not out there watching with your own eyes all the time. I mean, like a lot of what we learn is time on the stand or time on the ground or sitting with a rifle, whatever, watching the trails and how the deer actually move through the area. But like trail cameras, in my opinion, is the best thing you can do on private land for management, because we're able to follow these deer year after year after year, know who they are, know how old they are, and then able to selectively harvest them. Like we can control what goes on our property. You can't control what your neighbors do. But when we know how old the deer is, when we supplemental feed them, we do the food plots, like we're harvesting the most bucks we've ever shot off that in 1 year is 3. Like when we're harvesting 3 bucks that are all mature because we've followed them, we're not out there just slaughtering the herd. Like no hunter, conservationist, whatever you want to call us, is out there doing it for a negative reason.
All that imagery that you've gathered and the data and all that, then when you're out there on the actual hunt, like you're familiar with the animal.
Oh yeah.
So when you see it come up, you're like, okay, that's this one, that's this one, that's this one. We're gonna let that one walk. Here's the one we're going after. Like you're.
Do you name them?
Oh yeah,
big time.
Yeah,
we were after Grandpa this year, so I mean that gives you an idea of what how old the deer was that we were after this year.
And we found one of his sheds next to.
Oh really?
Yeah, my Bo found it. It was 5 yards from where my buck died this year. It was laying in a little piece of brush.
That's another thing that's kind of crazy. Like you're able to watch these animals so often that you find a shed and you're like, I know exactly what animal that came off of.
That's my favorite part of it. I mean, I grew up whitetail hunter. I would be willing to argue that my dad and my uncle are a couple of the best bow hunters in the state of Nebraska, and getting to grow up and learn from them way before I was old enough to hunt. And it's always been my favorite part, is building the story, learning what the deer do. But the stories that we've built with these deer over years and years is just like, it's just cool to look back on and see how they progress.
That's what a lot of people don't realize. It's so much more than if you don't do it, you imagine, okay, a guy's going to go hunting, he's going to get up in the morning, hadn't been out there all year, is going to get in his truck and go walk and sit next to a tree and wait for an animal to come walking by and shoot it and
blast him,
take it home and gut it and cut it all up and everything. Like you just think like that, but there's so much more to that. There's so much more involved. You are invested so much more in that process and in that final harvest.
Yeah, especially, I mean, even rifle hunting, like,
Oh, there's so much luck involved too. Like,
yeah,
there's so much luck.
We haven't gotten, like, nothing, no kill we've had has been just handed to us. I mean, everything has been scouting, and there's like you said, there's a billion things that go into it. And, like, when you're out there watching what the deer do, watching the trail cameras, learning the movement, how they move through the terrain, you got to have all that stuff put together. Yeah, you can get lucky here and there and just be in the right place at the right time, but it rarely happens like that. Like almost every kill we've had has been because of past knowledge, whether that was trail cameras or watching with our own eyes. And a lot of the time we're targeting a specific deer, and we know where to be for that specific deer because of past history and what we've seen. It's like you can do 999 things right. You still can't make that deer walk in front of you, especially bow hunting. Like, there is you can be in the right spot, but you got to get lucky and have the deer walk by while you're there.
Right.
But don't you think, like what you explained about how people, will just go up and just shoot it or whatever and not even think, that there's a lot going into it, like what you guys are explaining. Don't you think there's more people that just probably do that?
Well, there's a good number of, but see, this is another thing that I want to get out there. Those aren't hunters; those are poachers. The people that I think we do get mad with or whatever, people call them just hunters. Once again,
because they're actually just shooting something, but they're not taking the time to care.
I think
enough.
It depends. Like, somebody that's straight up poaching, like, call it as it is, they're a poacher. If they're
I'm saying they don't buy a license, they're spotlighting at night, those type of things.
Shooting deer or whatever game on property they don't have permission on, doing it in the legal way, like, that's just straight up a poacher. You can't even call them a hunter. Like, there's hunters that just
want to go out and shoot something and don't care.
Something.
Yeah,
don't care what it is.
We know people like that
that's
too.
Fine. That's fine. I was getting at just poachers.
It's up. It's entirely up to the hunter on what they shoot. Like, as long as they're doing it in a legal way. You can't, I mean, in my opinion, there's not really anything you can, and I've had a different opinion and changed my opinions throughout my life as I get older and see more. But, I mean, there's a lot of people that only rifle hunt in the state of Nebraska. You've got, especially if they only have weekends to hunt, they've got a maximum of 4 days to go out there with a rifle. If they have private property access or public land access and they want to go out there and fill the freezer, they're going to shoot whatever they see first. That's perfectly fine.
But you would rather do it a different way, but you also have some land, you have time, you know what I mean?
Don't have anything against them wanting to do it in a different way legally.
Not like one's right, one's wrong. There's different ways. But it would be nice to see if people saw actually the way you guys saw it and the value and the way that we kind of put in the time and the energy for my hunt. But like you said, I guess that kind of goes back to some people just don't have that much time or land.
A healthy deer herd has a good number or a number of mature bucks.
Okay.
So you can't just keep cutting down the young bucks that don't know any better, that are dumb and walk out. And that happens a lot. In the state of Nebraska, the cheapest tag was a buck only tag for a long time. And I talked with a guy years ago up in Pierce, Nebraska, and then I followed that conversation up with a couple game wardens. And he said trail cameras are the best darn things that ever came around out here because people stopped shooting the first buck they saw on opening morning because they knew there was a big one out there.
They want to wait for what they have seen.
So that's another thing that I want to get out there about trail cameras. That it allows people to understand what's really out there. And if you know that, you're not going to shoot that little 2-point buck opening morning. You're going to put a little bit more, patience on it.
Yeah, and it's like social. That's one. There's benefits and downfalls of social media, which sounds kind of stupid for us to say since what we do is basically media. But that's been one benefit because it's been a benefit and a downfall because it's kind of changed the hunting culture. Like hearing all the stories from your dad or my dad, my grandpa, if it had an antler, you shot it. Even here, Iowa, the best whitetail state currently in the country. If it had an antler, you shot it. Until you start seeing bigger deer and like you see in person a big deer or put your hands on a big deer, then you never want to go back to something smaller. And like for us, it's not, we love hunting for big antlers, obviously, but our number one is maturity. We don't hunt any of our bucks until we're confident they're 5+ years old and trail cameras, like you said, that's the best tool you can use for managing your herd, because you can't be out there. If you went out there every single day, you can be in one spot only, and you can only see what you can see. You can't follow and monitor the entire herd. So if we've got 25 trail cameras scattered out over 2,000 acres, learning multiple different herds, I mean, they'll travel and intermix, but you'll never see them all in person. We're learning these deer. Some of them we've never seen in person. Jared's the only one that's seen Grandpa, and that deer's 10 or 11 years old. He's the only only person that's laid eyes on it in person.
He missed.
He missed.
Oh,
Sorry, Jared.
he did take a shot?
Yep. But, yeah, I mean, how many deer just in the last few rifle seasons, antler-wise, that step out, would we shoot if we didn't know that they were too young by our standards?
Well, back in the day, you're exactly right, especially like if it's the last day and it had an antler, you're a dummy if you didn't pull the trigger. In fact, you'd get made fun of at school, if you didn't pull the trigger and shoot something with an antler. You got mocked. But that's just it. You would shoot a lot of 3-year-olds, a lot of 2-year-olds, just because you don't know any better. You don't want to think, oh man, did I make the right decision letting that buck pass? Yep. Aren't I out here to shoot a buck? You know what I mean? So I think that's been a really positive note that has come through trail cameras. And I don't know if this is a solution or a good idea or a really bad idea, but maybe on public land have your, let's say, 4 or 5 trail cameras on trails and make
them public.
Send it to a cell cam that's public.
People can see.
Anybody everywhere can go to that website and look at those pictures. Would that be a solution, or has that been brought up, or what are we talking about?
I almost think that would be more of a problem because, I mean,
I have a lot of bad ideas.
No, I thought when you said it, but I haven't thought it through.
It's not an awful idea until you start thinking about it more. Like I've thought of stuff like that too, but
it's like a nanny cam or something, watching your kid at daycare.
You've got people capitalizing on other people's work though, because a lot of those people would never drive that far. Like somebody could be in there not running trail cameras, but having seen a deer and be hunting hard for it. And then if there's people from 3 hours away that see a big deer walk by that camera, then all of a sudden you're going to have a ton of people there that have never put in any time or work there that just show up because that's there.
Okay.
What do you think, one of their main points there in Arizona was that, it gives an unfair advantage to the hunter. Mm-hmm. So we need to get rid of game cams. We need to even the playing field. What's the difference between that and fish finders?
True. You can't make the fish bite.
What do you mean?
Like, you can... We've seen it a million times. Like Thomas, our buddy Thomas Larson, that has fishing guide service. We fish with him a lot.
He's awesome.
Film a lot of episodes with him, and he's got all the fish finders, Garmin Live Scope. Like, you can see the fish. Yep. You can cast at the fish. You can't make that fish bite.
I got
you. You could cast at it 1,000 times. If it doesn't want to bite, it's not going to bite. If you're sitting over a water hole or have a trail camera on a water hole, and that animal walks in, you can probably take a shot at it.
You can shoot it, sure.
Yeah. Morgan can make the Creedmoor bite. It's going to take a bite out of that deer.
I think more than giving the hunters an unfair advantage in Arizona on those water holes, I think it's more so just to keep the human pressure off of it. Because if you're spooking those animals off there and that's their only source of water, that's bad no matter what way you look at it.
Yeah.
So I think the majority of true hunters, even there was probably people that were upset about it after it passed, but I mean, even if they think about it for a little bit, they're like, okay, yeah, that's probably better for the game. And if you're more mindful of the animal rather than you just wanting to have a trail camera there and know what's there, then I think you're probably going to be like, hey, yeah, that was the right decision in this circumstance.
It seems like it's like anything else, and this isn't going to fix it, but this is the fact of the matter, is that with anything that happens, you end up with a bad apple in the bunch. Yep. Someone does something, and it's not the majority of the people doing that something, but someone does, and they take advantage of the situation, and then everybody has to pay for it.
Someone always ruins it for everyone.
We all learned this when we were like 5 years old at daycare, when we were all, the daycare provider wasn't watching, and we were all in the back room doing something stupid and having whatever it was we were having going on, and then one of the kids spoiled it.
This kind of reminds me of a numbers game, though, where, okay, maybe you're not doing something too wrong, but there's too many of you doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So maybe one or two of you could steal a lollipop at daycare. But when we got 30 kids stealing lollipops, she's going to notice that, guys.
Yeah. But
true.
that's always what happens. Like someone,
There's already people taking advantage of it. I listened to a podcast a couple weeks ago about guys hunting one of those desert units down there in the Arizona Strip for mule deer, and it was after the ban. And you can, I think at that time, they've changed it since, but at that time you could run trail cameras for a certain date period, and then you had to pull them so many days before the season opened to take the pressure off of it. And they went in on one of the last days to pull their cameras and ran into a guy putting cameras up because he was going to be the only one that had cameras out there. And they started questioning him about it, and he said that he ran cattle there. So that's one of the things that you could use trail cameras there for, was if you're a cattle rancher and ran cows on that property so you could monitor and make sure your cows were getting water. And that's what he claimed at first. And then he changed his story to, well, my buddy runs the cows here. And then changed it again to say that he was monitoring to make sure the pipes didn't break, and then and he was wearing camo. Like, obviously, it's a hunter, so
Right.
Tough
people,
sell.
man. That's the problem with human beings. Like, there's always going to be something. Someone's always going to take advantage of something. Someone's always going to like just push stuff a little too far, and then all the good folks got to pay for it.
Right. Yeah. Then this stupid law comes up, and I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was within the rules, but
Yeah.
So
Well, I do hope it doesn't happen around here. I mean, as an outdoorsman, and a hunter, just game cams are just fun. Like, we obviously don't use them for anything malicious. I just like pulling the chip and seeing what's on there. Like, that's exciting. When you bring it back and you plug it into the computer and you're like, man, what did we catch this week? What was out there? What's going on in the woods when I'm not there? It's just fun.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I kind of miss too. I mean, we have far more SD camera trail cams that we have to go pull the card. And I mean, you're like a kid on Christmas. You're always excited to know what was there and what was on the camera. And that's,
But the cell phone one has to be easy. I saw what my friend had of it, and I was like,
it's nice.
Wow,
and it's
this is
beneficial,
live?
but like,
it's
when you
too easy.
Yeah. Yes and no. It depends how you use it. The way we use it, like, it kind of takes away from the excitement because you're getting the pictures in real time. You still get excited when a big buck pops up on your phone, but we're using them in places that we don't want to have to walk into because it's in a bedding area.
Yeah, right.
You're not going to go check it in the middle of the night. You're going to check it during the day when the deer are bedded down. So we walk in there and check it. You blow them all out. So that's where we use them. But we still have plenty of SD card cameras in places that are not intrusive, especially midday. A lot of the time we can drive right to them, leave the pickup running. The deer don't even stand up out of their beds. You can pull the card, swap it out right there, get back in the truck in less than a minute, and then drive off. And it's no harm, no foul. So then it's still fun because you can pull it and have the kid on Christmas moment when you scroll through the pictures. But
it is fun.
Yeah. Cool.
No,
This is good info.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know this was a thing. Like,
yeah.
I really don't. I don't know. I want to see what next state is going to do it, but at the same time, I don't.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons,
there's
obviously.
going to be more states that ban cell cameras. That I could see for sure. I don't think we'll ever really have to worry about. I don't know. If it gets to a certain point, like, you never know how technology is going to advance. If it gets to a certain point, they might just say they're all banned too. But here in the Midwest, where deer hunting especially is such a huge part of the state's revenue throughout the year, especially states like Iowa, I can't see them ever completely banning them.
Yeah.
Especially on private land. I don't.
Ben's going to have his drone go down and take the SD card and bring it back.
Yeah.
I mean,
that'll probably be a real thing before too long.
and again, the guys and ladies who are into this, like, that's part of the fun. I mean, go down to it, take the time, spend the afternoon, drive around to your cameras, pull your chips, whatever. Like, that's all part of the activity.
Yep.
That's all part of what makes it satisfying in the end when you get that final goal.
Right.
You know? So
it's a really neat thing where the education part is like really fun, and it adds so much to the whole season.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The story, like, I could say it a million times. The story we build with these is just, I can't describe the feeling. And especially if you're like, depends on how into it you are, but
You know, they can leave comments on YouTube. And some of our better videos, deer hunting videos, a couple of guys were actually making fun of like the story, because it was like we put in so much time, and they're like, "Whoa, guys, you did all that, you know, for a buck? Basically 4 years of work for that one buck." It's like,
Yes, we
we
did.
did.
and you get crap for naming them too. But
Yeah.
at a certain point, like I never take it like seriously or take it to heart when even buddies give me crap for naming these deer, because
Yeah.
they're not into it like we are. And if you're monitoring the deer herd as heavily as we are and building yearly stories, like
You have
can't,
to.
yeah, you can't say, you know, that 1 10 point over here
Yeah,
if you've
yeah.
got 5 10 points over here. So they
And
all,
that's way more fun to have a name for them,
Oh,
other than
100%.
like, okay, that is A3 and that one's
Yeah.
R4 and, you know, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
name the damn thing.
and usually, generally we'll wait until they're 5 years old when we can actually hunt them to give them names. Otherwise, we'd run out of names too fast. But most of the time, we try to name them with a name that is fitting for the deer's antlers or a story we've got with them. Like
Yeah.
Andy's second biggest buck, both of his big bucks, the Perfect 10 and Southpaw. Southpaw had one big left antler, like a big left hook Southpaw.
Oh, okay.
And Perfect 10 was a Perfect 10, perfectly symmetrical.
Yep.
So I mean, they're always along
Yeah.
that line.
Makes sense.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, fun names. They're cool. Well, what do you got going on?
Let's
here,
see
Ben?
what we got going on, man. We had a night last night. Let's see what's in here.
Oh, we got some product. There we go.
So we got a new whiskey partner, new bourbon, new vodka partner.
Ooh.
Okay.
So Andy got us set up through Jeff Mullinex. So
Yep.
folks who
You
have
know
listened
Jeff. Yep.
to the podcast know Jeff with Pop Up Blind. 100% made in America blind company. Those guys are making them themselves by hand. So he hooked us up with Soldier Valley. So Soldier Valley is a spirits company in La Vista. I don't know, have you heard of them?
I didn't when he said it before, but then made the correlation with Jeff. I remember him,
Okay.
one of you two talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we go out there and did an interview the other night with one of the owners. Rich is his name.
Yep.
Solid dude,
He's
veteran,
fun. Yeah, he's a good dude.
funny guy, like just huge on supporting veterans and giving back to military families and so on and so forth. And that's what Soldier Valley is all about. We got the opportunity to taste a bunch of their different blends, along with, well, actually we didn't taste the vodka, but we brought some with us.
Yeah.
So after creating that relationship and hanging out with them, they were willing to become our drink sponsor. So we love to have a drink with our guests, at the end of the podcast. So we're gonna crack into some of these for the
You're
first
going to
time.
have to bust
so
out your knife,
Let's
though.
do it.